Welcome to the Deep Dive, where your shortcut to being well-informed, distilling insights from the sources you really need. Today, we're going to Jasper National Park, a place of just, well, incredible beauty, but one that faced absolute devastation last summer. There was a massive wildfire, you probably remember, that just radically reshaped parts of this iconic landscape. And we've got our hands on a really crucial new report. It dissects the response to that fire. So our deep dive today is all about pulling out the key insights from that. We want to go beyond just, what happened and explore why things unfolded the way they did and what it all teaches us about managing these big crises, especially when you've got complex jurisdictional layers involved. Our sources here are mainly news reports covering this review commissioned by the municipality itself. Our mission for you listening is to give you that clear understanding, maybe spark some aha moments about how emergency response works between governments and about community resilience too. Okay, let's jump in and unpack this.
Yeah, it's a really important look back, isn't it? A truly catastrophic event. So this Jasper Wildfire complex, it ignited last summer, July 2024. And it was just this relentless, wind-whipped blaze swept right through the resort town. The scale of destruction is honestly hard to fully grasp. It took out a third of the community's buildings. We're talking 358 structures.
A third? Wow.
Yeah. And the estimated insured damage, $1.23 billion.
Billion. Goodness.
Exactly. And it forced about 25,000 people, residents and visitors, to evacuate just before July 24th. They were out of their homes for 3 whole weeks.
3 weeks.
And we absolutely have to mention the tragic loss of Morgan Kitchen, that 24-year-old wildland firefighter, killed by a falling tree fighting this blaze.
Such a tragedy.
It really is. And, the fire itself wasn't officially declared out until April of this year, 2025. Shows you how massive it was.
It's just persistent. So in the aftermath, the municipality of Jasper commissioned this after-action review, which is basically like a detailed forensic look at the emergency response. And the key thing here, they've stressed it's not about pointing fingers. It's about learning. What worked, what didn't, how can we improve? This report just came out last Thursday, July 17th. And it's based on a lot of input, right? Surveys from firefighters, incident managers.
That's right. 138 firefighters surveyed, 115 incident management team members. Plus, they held a workshop with 68 people who were directly involved. So pretty comprehensive input. And like you said, the goal was clear. Identify gaps, identify strengths, make future responses better. Not about blame.
Okay. So what was the big takeaway, the central finding?
Well, if you boil it down, perhaps the most striking finding is this. While the crews on the ground did an incredible job, absolutely heroic work, the overall command and control of the incident was significantly hampered. And the report actually points fingers, maybe surprisingly, at interference from the Alberta provincial government.
Okay, that is interesting because Jasper, it's in a federal national park. So technically, the Alberta government wasn't the lead agency responsible for the crisis, were they?
Exactly. That's the crux of it. Parks Canada and the municipality of Jasper, that's the primary jurisdiction.
So how did this provincial involvement actually play out? Why was it disruptive?
Well, the report highlights that despite not being the lead, the province of Alberta was regularly asking for information and, crucially, seeking to exercise decision-making authority.
Oh.
It says, and I'm quoting loosely here, that this interference disrupted the focus of incident commanders. Basically, these commanders ended up spending precious time managing inquiries and issues instead of fighting the fire and leading the re-entry of residents.
So pulled away from the actual crisis management.
Right. The report uses pretty direct language. Provincial involvement added complexity, and that they sought to exercise decision-making authority. It also mentions jurisdictional overlap with the province created political challenges that disrupted the focus.
Wow. You can imagine how frustrating that must have been when every single second counts in a wildfire.
Absolutely. It really throws a wrench in the works when lines of authority get blurred during an active emergency.
Definitely raises questions about, how multi-agency responses work or don't work when those rules aren't crystal clear. But, okay, despite that friction from the outside, you said the crews did amazing work. Did the report highlight successes too? What did Jasper and Parks Canada get right?
Oh, absolutely. And this is maybe the flip side of the coin. And it speaks volumes about their preparation. The report specifically praises the strong, unified command established by the municipality of Jasper and Parks Canada, called it a major success.
Okay.
These folks, the Town and Parks Canada officials, they had actually trained together before this. They had an integrated command structure ready to go. Plus, they had existing mutual aid agreements and, solid working relationships already built up. Not just them, but with other municipal, provincial, federal partners, even non-governmental groups.
So that groundwork paid off.
Hugely. It allowed for what the report calls strong operability. Think about this. Even with horrific conditions, they managed to protect 68% of the town site and all critical infrastructure.
That's incredible under the circumstance.
It really is, and the report credits that success directly to sound operational tactics, early deployment of structure protection resources, and, importantly, the inclusion of local technical experts in fire operations.
Local knowledge playing a key role.
Exactly. It really highlights how vital that local integration and, frankly, just good preparation can be.
That's a really powerful contrast, isn't it? What worked well locally versus the complexities introduced from a higher level. We should probably mention, too, just for context, that a spokesperson for Alberta's public safety minister, Mike Ellis, said they are working on a response to this report.
Right.
And on the other side, opposition NDP leader Naheed Nenshi accused the UCP government of injecting politics into the emergency response. So clearly the political discussion around these findings is ongoing. We're just reporting what's being said there.
Right. And that political dimension just underscores how complicated these multi-jurisdictional events can become. Okay, moving beyond the sort high-level command issues, the report also looked at more operational boots-on-the-ground stuff, specifically resource management.
Getting the right stuff to the right place at the right time.
Precisely. And there were problems noted with the Alberta Emergency Management Agency, AEM. That's the provincial body that mobilizes resources. The report mentioned inefficiencies in signing in, tracking, and checking out resources.
Seems like basic logistics, but critical.
Absolutely critical, because this wasn't just, a paperwork headache. It led to a lack of awareness regarding resource availability and location. And that, the report says, contributed to confusion, increased safety risks, and hindered effective allocation of resources.
You can't allocate what you don't know you have or where it is. Yikes.
Exactly. Imagine being a firefighter and not being sure what equipment is actually available or where the backup crews are. It's a serious problem.
Sounds like a recipe for, chaos in an already chaotic situation. So the report paints this picture. Incredible challenges, some real successes locally, but also clear areas needing work. It offered recommendations, right? About 24?
Yeah, around 24 suggestions for improvement.
What were some of the standout ones, the really crucial takeaways for other communities, maybe?
Okay, several key areas. First, big one. Clarifying jurisdiction. This sounds bureaucratic, maybe, but it's fundamental. They're talking about developing formal agreements, clear communication plans between the town, Parks Canada, and the key provincial agencies. Really nailing down who's responsible for what, who makes which decisions before the next crisis hits.
So everyone knows their role clearly in advance. Makes sense.
Yeah. The report shows that in these high-stakes situations, those lines of authority, they aren't just red tape. They're like the arteries for effective action. If they're tangled, it can be disastrous.
That's a really good way to put it. Okay, what else?
Next up was improved training and communication. More training, specifically multi-agency practice drills, doing them regularly, and better communication channels for the folks on the front lines, addressing things like delays, getting tactical updates out, avoiding uncoordinated efforts, fixing equipment shortages, basic but vital stuff.
Practice makes perfect, or at least better prepared.
Right. Then there's reentry planning, developing a really solid framework for getting residents back home safely and efficiently, outlining the steps, the trigger points for when reentry can start, what resources are needed, which agency does what, speeding up that whole decision-making process. That's huge for community well-being.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Getting people home.
And finally, building resiliency. This is about looking at things like fire-smart initiatives, making properties more fire-resistant. The report suggests exploring making these mandatory or incentivizing them for businesses and homeowners, and significantly lobbying for updated building codes, provincially and federally, to require fire-resistant materials. They specifically noted how older cedar shake roofs really contributed to the fire spread in some areas.
Looking long-term at prevention and mitigation, too. It seems like a pretty holistic approach, covering everything from top-level coordination down to the shingles on a roof.
Yeah.
How's Jasper itself approaching these recommendations?
Well, Bill Given, he's Jasper's chief administrative officer, he mentioned they're really focused on learning from other places that have been through this Slave Lake, Fort McMurray. And they're prioritizing the recommendations they can actually control themselves. within the municipality, building that local capacity, while, still pushing for cooperation on the things that aid broader government action, taking ownership where they can.
Right, focusing on what's actionable for them right now.
Right.
Makes sense. So, okay, that's the report's findings and the path forward. But let's shift gears a bit. I'm really curious about the here and now. What does Jasper actually look like today, a year later, especially for visitors going back?
Yeah, this is where it gets quite striking. The landscape, especially in those really popular campgrounds, Wapiti and Whistler's, it's radically changed.
Right.
Where you used to have these dense, beautiful forests. Now very few trees are left. Many of them just stand there like charred matchsticks. That's the description people are using.
Oh, wow, charred matchsticks. That paints a picture.
It really does. It's a starkly different visual. Operationally, Wapiti Campground, for instance, only has about 30% of its sites open this year, like 120 out of 400. Whistler's is doing better. It's about 97% open.
Okay.
Parks Canada crews have been working incredibly hard since last fall, clearing debris, cutting down hazardous trees, getting utilities reconnected, putting up signs. They've had to rebuild over 1,000 picnic tables. Just think about that task.
Huge amount of work.
Massive. And a practical tip for anyone visiting those areas now, bring your own wind or sun shelter. There's just way more exposure without the tree cover.
Right, totally different environment. It must be quite something for people who knew it before. How are visitors actually reacting to this new reality?
It's really interesting, a real mix of perspectives. Shows how people adapt. There was Judith Normando, a regular visitor. She said, very honestly, no privacy, that's true.
Yeah.
But if you walk around, everybody says hello to you. She really emphasized supporting the town, shopping there, eating out, seeing it as part of the recovery.
Finding connection in the openness.
Exactly. Then you have Myra Donne, she's 17. She noted the practical changes. It's definitely more windy, and we couldn't put up hammocks. She also felt a bit sad, disappointed not to see squirrels or bears or animals besides crows, missing the wildlife.
Yeah, that's understandable.
And a 9-year-old, Ash Odson, had this really poignant view. I was kind of sad for the trees because they all got burnt, but then added, it was still really fun because I got to see the river and I got to walk to the park, and it was amazing. Finding the fun despite the loss.
Kids find the amazing anywhere, don't they?
They do. And Heather Kindop, visiting from California, she'd experienced the campfire there. She said seeing Jasper was shocking, that there's no trees left, nothing to separate you from your neighbors. But she immediately connected it to the need for tourism to help rebuild, having seen that back home.
That's a powerful connection. So really diverse reactions, loss, adaptation, finding new beauty, understanding the economic need. What's the long-term plan for those campgrounds? Will they ever get that forested feeling back?
Well, Parks Canada's goal is to rebuild Wapiti back to 100% capacity, but it's a huge job. They estimate it'll take 3 to 5 years, and it's going to require closing that campground completely during the rebuild period.
Okay, so a long road ahead for Wapiti.
Definitely. But for people wanting that classic forested Jasper camping experience right now, there are other options. Smaller campgrounds like Honeymoon, Jonas, Crixlin, Wilcox, Miette, those are open and still have their trees. Though a couple others, Wabasso and Whirlpool Group campgrounds, they remain closed for now.
Good to know. There are alternatives. Despite all the devastation, which is undeniable, there's this emerging idea you mentioned, almost like a renewed beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Graham Wilde from Parks Canada had that quote about how what was hidden by the trees is now laid bare, revealing mountain views, valleys, streams that you couldn't see before. A different kind of beauty, maybe? More raw?
Absolutely. It's stark, but it is a different kind of beautiful, more exposed, more panoramic in places, and it really ties into this broader metaphor that one of the visitors shared, which really stuck with me too. She said, sometimes we go through times where everything is green and then everything is brown and burned and devastated, but only from there we can actually rise up again. And I think what these stories from Jasper really show is, yes, the physical rebuilding takes years, it takes billions of dollars, but the spirit of a community, its ability to adapt, to find new connections, even in vulnerability, to sort of reframe devastation into something else, that's the real measure of resilience. And it often shows up in these really unexpected ways.
That's really well put. This deep dive has certainly covered a lot, from the nitty-gritty of emergency command and those tricky interjurisdictional problems, all the way to the very real, very tangible impact on this incredible landscape and the people connected to it. It's just a complex tapestry of crisis, response, and that deep community resilience you talked about.
Yeah, and if we try to, connect this to the bigger picture, I think the lesson from Jasper, for really any community facing big, complex challenges is crystal clear. It's the absolute need for clear communication, for really well-defined roles, and for that commitment to continuous learning.
Yeah.
Especially when you have multiple levels of government involved, it just hammers home how important it is to prepare for the unexpected and then how to adapt when reality completely changes.
So thinking about all this, what does it mean for you listening right now? How do these insights about how agencies cooperate or maybe struggle to cooperate in a crisis, how does that shape your own understanding of complex systems, maybe in your own community or at work or even just in life? And think about this too. What new landscapes, maybe metaphorical ones, might emerge from unexpected challenges you face? And what kinds of lessons, maybe even unexpected beauty, can be drawn from them? Something to mull over. We'll be back next time with another deep dive.